When I was really young, I mean really young, probably 4 years old, 3 years old, um, I've always thought it was when I first took a bath by myself. I was sitting in the bathtub and I was thinking about death. I must have heard someone talking about death in our family. I think it was my grandparents. Um, and they were talking about it as not existing anymore. And so I was trying to feel that, like not existing anymore, not no life. And I got this really eerie feeling. And the next thing I knew, I felt the presence of someone watching me. I felt like I was on TV. And he asked me, oh, first, right? First thing that happened was he says, this presence, and he says, I never die. I never die. And his voice and my voice were like the same. And I went, ah, that's right. And then he asked me if I had one wish, what would I wish? And without any hesitation, this little guy uh, related that I just want everybody to be happy. And I felt his pleasure. And then he was relating to me that I was living in a special time and knowledge was going to increase. He didn't use the word exponential, but he showed it to me in a feeling and kind of visionary. Exponential increase in knowledge. Now, I'm a little guy. I remember this experience when I'm in my 20s before the brothers came. Clear as a bell. And then he takes me on a journey, answers some things to me, and the next thing I know, he takes me out of the body into a bigger body. I'm up on a hill or a mountain looking over a valley of a city, and the city is desolated, burning, and there's a wailing coming up out of it. And I'm feeling sorrow that it had to come to that. And I feel it going on all over the earth. And in the meantime, I have like a bubble around me. And I'm walking through the city, totally protected, looking for survivors. So, I mean, I don't really know. I know that the Lord, He'll show you things, and it's good to remember that His understandings are beyond ours, but some of which has already occurred. As far as the increase of knowledge exponentially, we are definitely in that age to the max. Now we're in a time where a lot of the scriptures in the book of Revelations are being fulfilled. Now, I'm not one of these guys who study Revelations. You know, Amen one time told us that we all should read the book of Revelations really slow, which I have done. And of course, I've read through them other times. But I'm not a scholar in that way. I don't study things in that way. Certain things have been fulfilled in a way that seem undeniable and are being fulfilled right now. That when John wrote the book in the symbolic manner that he did, he couldn't have perceived the things that we're experiencing today. Now, of course, all knowledge being increased on the earth, that's an obvious one. Now we have the abomination of desolation. That's a big one. That's pretty obvious to me when I read it. That there's these things sitting and waiting for a year, a month, an hour. And they have fire that comes out of their tail like a snake, and fire that comes out of their mouth that does hurt and destroys third of the earth, or however much it was. And now that sounds like nuclear missiles. Abomination of desolation. And then we have, let's see, the mark of the beast, which they've developed and probably are continuing to refine, that they have, and I've met people who have actually been injected by force. And when they told me the story, it was undeniable. They have a little size of a grain of rice that they can inject into your hand or into your forehead. I saw a video years ago of a scientist who helped develop. He was a microscientist, and he was hired by the government to develop this grain of rice with all its capabilities. And in the video that I saw, the first thing he says, he wasn't a believer in God. And he was offered this really good job. And as he was fulfilling the requirements of the job, it started hitting his heart that this wasn't right, what they wanted. And what they devised was in the hand or in the forehead because of the temperature change to recharge the battery. And also they wanted it being able to be placed in a hard place to remove. Well, he started feeling this in his heart, that something wasn't right. And he ended up opening up the scriptures right to where in the book of Revelations, the mark of the beast, and realized he's fulfilling everything that's written there. Life-changing. I heard David Muir, World News. He had a little clip with a woman describing how a lot of large corporations in this country and in the world are already requiring people who work with them to have it. This is a couple years ago. And they couldn't do business. They couldn't even use a candy machine without, they couldn't enter the building without this implanted chip. And what the lady was saying was that this is going to become prevalent, and it's going to end up replacing credit cards and cash. Cashless society. You won't be able to buy or sell, save. You have the mark. And David Muir's standing there, and he's listening to this. This is live. And he goes, well, I'm not going to want to take that. I thought that was great. So we have that being fulfilled very clearly. And, I've even gone to a Salvation Army on the road and mentioned this years ago when it was first being revealed to a lady working in the Salvation Army. And I mentioned this to her, and she said, oh, it'll be great. Yeah, we've gotten paperwork on it. It'll be great. You won't be able to do all these illegal transactions. It'll stop a lot of crime and thievery, supposedly, without the recognition that now you've taken away a lot of your freedoms of how you would use the monies that you have. And then we have, there's the image to the beast. I like this one. Yeah. Of course, the beast is not the image. The beast is a spirit. And but the image to the beast that everyone would bow down to and worship, and it would speak. I'm using a computer right now, and it has an apple on it with a bite out of it, representing, I would imagine, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which the computer really reflects perfectly. And I laugh because there's the sign right on it. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's like the mind of man put into a machine with all the deceptions and all the everything, good and evil. And so here we have the image to the beast that people bow down and worship. Well, it really is knowledge. It's the tree of knowledge. But they created a computer. And the computer now, artificial intelligence, exponential increase in knowledge and power of knowledge. And then people with their phones and their computers, phones are basically the computers also, the attention that's being given to them, and they do speak. It's a fulfillment that I see that seems pretty self-evident. So we have these times that we're in. Amen used to say in the political world, he says it's going to get so ridiculous you're going to have to laugh. Well, of course, to be able to do that, you're going to have to be on the other side of the Grand Canyon, meaning looking at the world from the New Jerusalem, from a point of view that is with the Father, not of the world. Because otherwise, it's scary as all get out. And then we got, wars and rumors of wars. Oh, my goodness. I don't believe that everything's been fulfilled for the fullness of Armageddon to happen yet. But I don't know anything. I really don't. I don't know what has been fulfilled in accordance to prophecy and what hasn't. I can only see the things that I see. But the feeling in the air, and having grown up in the 60s and the 70s, and the feelings that were then and what we have now is increased without a question. And especially of recent time, of course, we had the war in the Middle East, we had the war in Ukraine, we have large nations making allies and preparing for that kind of war. And so all that's building without a question. It's historical. It's the same thing that happens, that we look back, Second World War, First World War, and everything before that. Only now it's on a scale that the world has never seen. Man's capability to destroy, and everybody feels it. And the children are feeling it. They're born into this. Of course, most people, because it's so scary, and they're so still invested, and we're, without coming to a high state of faith and release of your life in this world, it's very difficult to look at the conditions of this world without feeling fear. It would be impossible. I mean, faith and disconnect of attachments, practicing that. The Lord, he said, if you're married, be as if you're not. Oh yeah, that was Paul, but you know what I mean. Everything you have in this world, you have to practice letting it go to feel at peace, because the times we're in, and to be able to look at things for real. My mom, before the Second World War and before the Germans made their move on the Jews and everything that came down, when I connected with her, after I put on a robe and I was walking with Amen, I said to her, the people were warned before it happened. And she agreed. Nobody believed it. Nobody wanted to believe it. See, because then they have to look at the darkness that rules this world square in the face and look at their participation in it. So yeah, this is a time for people to wake up, that's for sure. And there is only one way. I mean, you have to give your life back to the Almighty. That's it. There is no other way. And that is the life of Christ. Amen.